I work for the Department of Trade and Industry, and I run a program called National Cleaner Production Center of South Africa. It's a partnership between the government of South Africa and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. There are about 65 cleaner production centers in the world, and our main focus is simply to promote cleanup technology, resource efficiency, and cleanup production. And about 7 of those are in Africa. We're hoping that in the next 3 years, we would have facilitated the opening of about 6 more in Africa, across both language and regional divides of the African continent. Now, let me give you a brief background. It's a program of the Department of Industry, and the mandate, resource efficiency and cleaner production. We're looking at economic increased profits, environmental efficiency in terms of water, energy and material. We're also concerned about the good corporate citizenship. Job creation is the priority of government, and also to make sure that when we talk profitability, we also talk productivity, which talks to environmental responsibility as well. We are primarily active because of IPEP 2. We have identified 8 sectors as primary focus sectors. Now, if you're not in these sectors, we still help you, but resources and efforts are mainly prioritizing these sectors. And these are the key activities currently in 2012 that we are doing. The first one is that we are responsible of the National Energy Efficiency Program, Industrial Energy Efficiency Program. We also run a program on waste management in line with the Waste Management Act, Environmental Management Act, Waste Management. And we run a number of cleaner production or clean technology transfer programs. We also look at, in terms of the National Sustainability Strategy policy of government, due to be approved. We run sustainable consumption and production programs, and we also looking at resource efficiency and competitiveness, issues of products and product life cycle, to say when you have a product, the production of the product, the market of the product, the life cycle of the product, including the what we call cradle to cradle or cradle to grave. And then we also responsible for national campaigns on awareness, promotion on sustainable consumption and production. Everything else we do, it's within or covered by the National Industrial Incentive Scheme of government, of the DTI. There's a division called TEO. I hope you are more familiar with it. And so whatever we do, it's free of charge. I hope for now, we're considering that we would have to ask companies to contribute, especially above middle to higher end industries. SMMEs and smaller ones would still preferably get much freer options. Now, the reason I'm here is to give you a background. The current status quo of South Africa in terms of green industry or green economy. Firstly, officially from 1st of January this year, we now have a green industry division in the DTI that specifically focuses on developing the industry, incentive programs, industries, the platform for the industry to prosper and grow. And these are the listed activities within the National Sustainability Strategy at the Department of Environmental Affairs and Economic Development Department. And we're looking at green industries, or in terms of building, we're looking at clean technology and energy efficiency. We're looking at waste management, cross-cutting issues, where you'd find that it's not necessarily an agriculture or a chemical or a mining, but it's an area that involves all areas of activities. The kind of budget economy estimate, this is based on the last financial year, which ends tomorrow, on this Friday. The government 2010-2011 financial year. It's based on these figures I'm giving you. There are new figures that will be announced. Our government year starts next week, 1st of April, and there would be a new amount, new figures that will be announced by the minister. And there's a bird that told me that maybe would even have an insight into IPEP 3 and the new incentive programs that are coming out. Priorities would be most likely green industry will be a new priority of government. Manufacturing is still a priority. And we will also be looking at how to enhance clean technology. I'm talking in terms of DTI, not overall government priorities. And the I didn't find out where the pointer is. Okay, and the idea is to create a cohesive national or integrated program based on the full cost of what it takes for industry to move from conventional engineering processes that we got used to alternative or renewable ways of production that are more sustainable, that are more greener, that are more reliable and effective as well. And we're looking at delivering incremental products and service by underpinning the risk mechanism. Our view is that the more you move into green industry, the more you need to be more cautious about the eco footprint, but also about the risk associated with changing from one area of production or technology to another, so that you can have a sustainable means of changing from one sector to another. And we're looking at it must become a more transparent governance process that avoids duplicating existing programs. You see, when we talk of, for example, the energy efficiency program in the country, ESCOM is the demand side management, there's NESA, there's municipalities that have their own programs. We're running the industrial energy efficiency program, and at some stage you would need to have a national coordinated effort to ensure that these programs all talk to each other and the priorities to be achieved communicate to the national electrical or energy capacity needs for the country. And that's what we mean by avoiding duplication. But also, we have a huge subsidy that we give to industry that wants to move to energy efficient mechanism production systems. And ESCOM also does the same. And you also have tax rebate, you have other DTI TEO incentive schemes. How do you limit one company from benefiting from all 4 incentive programs using the same case studies of values or using the same processes? So we need to make sure that, because it's all coming from one purse, the National Treasury. So you need to manage that. So we're working very hard to ensure that there is proper management of the program. The high-level financial resources that are available. Energy-related programs account to about 50%, and international to about 80% in terms of DFI funds. And we also realize that green economy policy instruments are explored both, interestingly, at local government level, at provincial level, also national government level, influenced by global trends and global processes that are going on. For example, the impact of hosting COP17 last year, we realized that a lot of municipalities have begun to filter into their municipal bylaws certain policies and programs that enhances the ability for industry to adopt new technology and have incentives that allows them to do that. We're also looking at access to green resources. The estimated financial resources are that we're thinking National Treasury would contribute about 6 billion. 800 million is sitting within the economy currently. The things that he was presenting, it's part of the 800 million that we have realized it's in circulation right now. Private sector finance, there's about 100 billion. For example, IFC, Nedbank, I know Upside is working very hard now to develop a program. They are sitting with about 100 billion amount of cash that is geared specifically for green industries. Government also made available, there's a tune of about, I think it's sitting at about 26, 28 billion at the IDC, Industrial Development Corporation. And this amount of money, we think that it's a good stimuli for industry to begin to adopt cleaner technology businesses and practices in the country. Areas that we think we should do in government to support the program or the Cleaner Production Center, I think we should strengthen the regulatory framework to allow for new entry, alternative energy generators, to allow for renewable energy generators to come into the market. There needs to be a very good regulatory framework, and there must be market-based instrument to attract investors into the business. We need to increase the spend on science and technology innovation. You are aware of the Department of Science and Technology set up the Technology Innovation Agency called TIA, and they are doing a lot of work towards technology and innovation. We think there's a need for greater localization and manufacturing. You are aware of the PPPFMA, Public Preferential Procurement Act, that says you need to grow local markets. So if you're doing business in South Africa, we expect you to start procuring and creating or stimulating an opportunity for South African manufacturer of the products that you're doing. Invest finance opportunities and financing in terms of instruments or for leveraging funds. There's a lot of work going on with CEDA, with IDC. DBSA is also involved at some level to create an environment where industry could find it easy to invest, but also to access the amount of money that I showed you earlier on. The other challenge that has been in South Africa for some time now, I think this is one of those key democratic stories or case studies that we would be proud of in a few years. It's availability of skills in South Africa. And we want the process to not become blind to the needs to develop local skills to deliver on green industry and green technology economy in South Africa. And institutional capacity and capabilities. The NCPC right now, for the last 2 years and the next 3 years, we are offering a number of energy efficiency training on systems. Starting from, we developed the ISO 50001 with SABS, and that will lead to we have right now this week steam and compressed air training going on. Last week we had air conditioners, and I think in a week's time there's guys coming from Sweden who will be talking about pumps and heat. And these training courses are intended for either industries directly or consulting specialists, the famous known as COS, and individuals who have an interest in developing their skills and knowledge in the energy efficiency industry. These courses are also part of the NCPC incentive program to industry. We want to leverage on the partnerships we have. The NCPC South Africa likely also sit as a representative of all the other 7 or 8 centers in Africa, in the African Union as an ministerial advisory committee, but also I represent the African continent in the United Nations committee or executive committee on resource efficiency and cleaner production. So we want to make sure that the lessons that are learned from other G20 countries or same economic countries or even better advanced economies, industries in the world, that we benefit from that and we transfer that into South Africa. So the training, for example, that I spoke about, we have contracts signed with over 68 international universities, excluding the South African universities. And when the guys comes from the other international universities, we pair them with South African universities. and this course, that's how these courses are offered. And we think we'll do that for the next 2 years whilst we stimulate the market, and from there it becomes a normal business process. Now, let me just excite you. We know already about the fuel tax. You are aware of the electrical non-renewable source levy. You are aware of the taxation on incandescent light bulbs. I'm sure you also very well familiar with the plastic bag levies. International air passenger departure tax. So the SAA is not yet affected. I think the last report I read was saying only in 2013, or 2010. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm confusing the date. But that is going to become a very crucial tax. There's tax on motor vehicles. If you have bought a car in the last 2 years, you know now even the adverts on new vehicles includes carbon emission tax. There's certified emission reduction favorable tax. South Africa has not done well in terms of CDMs and all that. So we want to create an environment in the midst of all this that you are also able to benefit. One of the support or the reason the landfill gas to electricity process in Durban and eThekwini is doing well is that they are benefiting from the CERs that they're getting from the project, and that gives them a very good profit margin or sustainability allowance. Now, how it works is that, for example, I took this directly as it is on the policy, and although I've written it in my own words, but it says if you have a car, vehicle emission at 120 grams of carbon per kilometer, at the rate of 70, you'll have to pay a rate of 75 rand per carbon per kilometer from 2010. Everyone is, I'm sure, already aware of that. And on the incandescent light bulbs, it's 3 rand per light bulb from 2009. We're looking at energy efficiency saving tax incentive from 2009 for business, and this you do as you do your tax returns for your company, and implementation of a 50% fuel tax, concession on biodiesel at 150%, and this is part of the R&D process that TIA can help you with. You have a 3-year accelerated depreciation allowance for your plant. So you want to move from a pump that is not energy efficient to a pump that is more energy efficient. So the process will allow you a 20-30 split, or a 50-30-20% split in accessing an incentive from TIO on small scale hydro, for example, or wind, and then you can then put up a profitable business in terms of renewable energy. The driving principles of this is that we need to measure and monitor the change. If you don't do that, then you won't really be able to tell the difference of the change or the advancement in the economy. And we want to also have a tax base that should be levied according to carbon content of fossil fuel. So in terms of the fuel tax. And we want to be able to say the tax rate should over time be equivalent to the marginal external damage cost of carbon efficient appropriate incentive schemes. So if you have an incentive scheme, it should talk to the losses that you would incur in the time that you migrate from an efficient technology to an efficient technology. The level of tax can be phased in over time, such as price projection. You remember the plan that Eskom has to phase in at a given time interval the increase in electricity tariffs. And we think that is more palatable than just having a once-off lump sum, also for the economic stimulation. To be able to, the distributional and competitiveness concern to be dealt with in a transparent manner. If you want to attract more investment, you need to make sure that investors build confidence in the processes that they need to follow for them to be able to invest in the economy. The relief measures, if any, to address competitiveness concerns. We can all say the Competition Commission has been very active lately in the last 5 years, and we think in that we should then advance and close the gaps that limits clean technology to become a competitive tool or sector in the economy. Let me share with you some of the things that we are developing and we are looking at as I conclude. For example, in the chemical sector, what we do is we do an assessment. Let me use energy efficiencies because it's the simplest example. We would assess the before use of energy, the during, and the after. And then we do, through monitoring and evaluation, the ISO 20,000, and then look at what are the options for systems to be changed and adopt a more efficient energy system of production. And in this time, we were looking at an investment of R1 million, we were looking at an income of about 9 million rand. And if you look at it from the trends of what caused this amount I showed you, it was mainly in the sector, the companies that were assessed and benefited from the product. There were about 22 companies that were used to do this. And the main consumer were lighting, compressed air, motors, process modification, and we also looked at, there were few housekeeping issues that they needed to look at. In the metal sector, the same trends, and the pie shows you how much low-hanging fruit in terms of impact you can have. And most of these changes were operational maintenance, planned maintenance issues, and which either were postponed or not done, and we were recommending they should be done, and we provided the incentives for that to be done. In an agro-processing sector, we're looking at an amount of, in terms of potential savings they could make, about 3.5, and this was on 6 companies that we looked at, varying from a juice maker to a poultry, and in a poultry we were looking at chicken abattoir. We had a ostrich and also a beef abattoir, and these were the challenges they have, and mainly it was refrigeration for them. And same in agro processing. The same process, and this was looking at the different, this is on waste generation, this one was on water consumption, and the other one was on energy. And the trends was, in agro-processing you'd find clean technology will be applicable for both water usage, for energy use, and for waste management areas. We specifically chose the 3: water, waste, and energy, because those are the simplest low-hanging fruit. You can then adopt a technology and find it easier to put it in with immediate return on investment. This was also on another big steel company in the country as well, where we realized that if they could implement the 13 areas that we identified as their low technology options, they could generate an income of about 48 million. We had one yesterday where we were giving feedback in Saldanha, one big company there, and they told us that they have, from October last year to now, when they started implementing, they have recovered 68 million that was going into unnecessary maintenance that they are no longer doing, and also that was going into leaks that were on the system. And we think if you can recover 48 million, if you are a good corporate citizen, you can employ 3, 4, 5 people and pay them a huge amount of money to buy a Lamborghini. And that's a very brief overview of what is going on in the country in terms of green industries. Thank you.